Hey writers, let's take a second to talk about strategies for determining whether numbers are prime or composite. So remember from class that prime and composite is a way of categorizing numbers. Prime numbers only have two factors. That means there's only two numbers in the entire world that you can multiply together to make that number. So think of the number 3, right? The only way to make 3 using multiplication is 1 times 3. It only has two factors. That means it's prime. But other numbers have more than two factors, and we call those numbers composite. So take, for example, the number 6, right? I can do 1 times 6, and I can do 2 times 3. So 1, 2, 3, and 6, those are all the factors of the number 6. It has more than 2, so it must be composite. So we've learned several different strategies for proving whether numbers are prime or composite, so let's go over them. The first one is an array method. So an array is just a fancy name for a rectangle. So let's see if we can use arrays to answer this question. Is the number 24 prime or composite? So when I'm making an array, I'm essentially going to take little boxes, not quite that many, just start with one, little boxes, and we're going to line them up next to each other to make a rectangle. Now if my number is 24, I can only use 24 of these little boxes. Make sense? Alright, so let's go ahead and make our first rectangle. Now I'm going to start the easy way, and I'm just going to line all those 24 boxes up right next to each other. Alright, let's see if I can draw 24 even boxes in here. Okay, so that gives me 2. That gives me 4. I'll cut each one of these into 6. Alright, my mouse is a little slower than my hand. Let's see how this goes. Last box. Alright, and at the end of this, I should have 24 of these little squares all lined up in a line. Okay, so I have 24 going this way. 24. And I have just one row of them, right? And I could flip this rectangle vertically, and I could have 24 going down, but only have one column of 24. So there's two different ways to write that one. But I also know that if I build a rectangle, this one's going to look just a little bit different. If I build a rectangle like this, and I cut it into 4 rows, and then, let's go over that line again, and then I cut it into 6 columns, then I'm also going to have 24 boxes. They're a little bit different in the way they're laid out, but I still have 24. Alright, not the prettiest array I've ever drawn, but it'll work for now. Alright, so already I have 2 different ways of making 24. I can do 1 by 24, and I can do 6 by 4. Now I could keep going. I also know that I can make a rectangle that has 8 columns and 3 rows. And I'm not going to take the time to draw these out because I think you're getting the picture. But I could also make a tall and thin one that has 2 columns and 12 rows. So all of these are different ways of making the number 24. Now if I count up all these numbers, I'm going to find out how many factors the number 24 has. So 24 by 1, there's 2 factors. I'm going to write them in a list down at the bottom. Alright, 2 and 12, let me add those to our list. 2 and 12. I bet you can guess where I'm going to head next. I'm going to add 8 and 3 to our list. Now you'll notice I'm putting these numbers in numerical order. Mathematicians like to keep things neat and orderly. Last but not least, I've got 4 and 6. All right, so using these arrays, I have found all the different numbers that can be put together to make 24. Let me change my pen color here. 1 and 24. 2 and 12, 3 and 8, and 4 and 6. So how many factors is that? That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 factors. So because 24 has 8 factors, we can safely say that this number is prime. Let me get that written out here. Prime. Oh, I'm sorry, I misspoke. We can safely say that number is composite. I'm glad I caught that. We can safely say that this number is composite because it has more than 2 factors. Alright, that's where I'm going to end today's video. Check the next prime and composite video for another strategy to prove whether 24 is prime or composite.